let's jump right in to the next call we've got. We're going to talk to Ulrich, pronouns he, him, calling in all the way from Mexico. And this is all it says on the call screen. Trans ideology is not scientific. That's what it says. Let's talk about it. You're on the line with Forrest and Orticia. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Never had a bad day.
Hell yeah. Love that.
Just a good line. Yeah.
So tell me about what you're talking about. Like what brings you to this conclusion? First of all, what is trans ideology? And second of all, please tell me why you think that it is not science to talk about trans people.
Trans ideology will be like a person with a penis saying he's a woman, and you declare that that's true. I would say that's not true. Things like that.
Okay.
So I would say that there are only two genders. You're one of them, and what you are depends on your physiology.
Okay. So I've just taken some notes here. You're saying there's only two genders, and that equals physiology, not anatomy, specifically physiology.
Anatomy would be the better word. Yeah.
Okay. So anatomy, not physiology. And are you sure specifically anatomy, not genetics, just anatomy, or is it both?
Look, it's all of it. Yeah, it's your chromosomes, your genetics, your anatomy, also your physiology. It's all of it.
Yeah. Okay. Phys and genes. I'm just going to put that. So, and you also said that a penis means you're not a woman, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Morticia, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
You start, because you take it, okay. And then I'll chime in.
Sure. If I'm talking too long and you have something, please interrupt me, because I want to hear from you on this especially. So we literally had a woman calling in on this show just a little while ago. She is intersex. She has XX chromosomes and a penis, and she is a woman and has lived her whole life as a woman. Are you saying that she's not actually a woman?
No, but she's an exception because intersex is a very rare phenomenon.
So when you say there's only two genders, what you mean is there's two and also some other people.
Yeah, but still, like this intersex person, she's a mix of the two genders. She's not something else.
So when you say there's only two, what you mean is there's the two and then there's also other things.
Then there are some rare conditions that are actually problematic, right. I guess.
So let's we'll come back to that. But once again, two and also some rare conditions is not two, right? We can agree on that more than two isn't the same thing as two.
Look, there are people that have only one arm, but still normally we have two arms. So
right. Typically we have two arms, and typically people are, male or female, but again, more than two isn't two. So I would not say all humans have two arms. I would say most humans have two arms. And I would say most people in the world are this or that. But when you talk about these rare conditions, it's important to remember that the conservative estimate of intersex people is 1.7% of the global population. That's numbers from the UN. So 1.7% of 8 billion people is 136 million people. That's a population the size of Russia, Ulrich. So what you're saying here is that we only have males, females, and Russians, but what that actually means is that there's only males and females, and we just don't discuss the Russians because they're weird. And that's not how thinking works.
That's not what I'm saying. You make it sound like offensive. No, what I'm saying is intersex, is a rare condition, but it's nothing to do with trans, though. You brought that up.
No, it isn't. But it isn't to do with trans, but you brought up penises, which are also nothing to do with trans, because genitalia would have to do with sex, not gender.
Sex and gender are not separable like you think. They are the same.
Okay, if sex and gender is the same thing, if sex and gender are the same thing, then how would you classify someone with Swyer syndrome who has XY chromosomes and is fully anatomically female and gets pregnant and has children, which we have plenty of case studies of that? Is that person a man or a woman?
Like I said, that would be a woman with Swyer syndrome. Nothing to do with trans
but they have and they have XY chromosomes. So are they a man or a woman?
That would be hard to say, but that has nothing to do with trans ideology, though.
That's what I'm asking you, though. No, it does. If you're saying sex and gender are the same thing, then this person is chromosomally male and anatomically female. So either you have to admit that some women have XY chromosomes, or you have to admit that some men give birth. Which one is it?
Okay, that's probably true, but that has nothing to do with people, how they identify themselves.
I'm going to ask you the same question again. If sex and gender are the same thing as you claim, Ulrich, then in the case of someone with Swyer syndrome, you have to say that either they are a man because they have XY chromosomes, which means some men can give birth, or you have to say that they are a woman because they can give birth, which means some women have XY chromosomes. Which one is it?
That would be a specialist appointment to decide that. In that case,
I'm asking you. You're the one making the claim.
But not about Swyer syndrome, though. I don't know a lot about that.
I'm asking you. I just told you everything you need to know. This is a person with XY chromosomes who has a female body and can get pregnant and give birth. According to your ideology that sex and gender are the same thing, your claim that you are making, how do you classify this person? You said there are only two sexes and they are the same thing as genders. So how do you classify this person? Are they a man that can give birth or a woman with XY chromosomes?
They are a weird condition that do not make up a rule.
That is not the question I asked you. Because if you just say they're a weird condition, then you're saying that they are a third magical sex that just doesn't fit in your classification system.
It's not my system, it's the world's system that there are male and
it's
female.
The one you're presenting. It's the one that you're presenting against two biologists who are telling you you're wrong. So if you're presenting a new concept here, you need to defend it.
It's not a new concept. It's thousands of years old or millions of years old.
It is
male and female, two gender.
It is a thoroughly outdated, dumb concept that you are presenting as the truth, which means you need to defend your claim. You have two biologists here, two people who went to school and got degrees learning about biology, who are both telling you that the biological consensus is that the sex and gender are different things and they're not binary. You're telling us that that's wrong. So you need to now defend the claim you're making that the science that Morticia and I went to school and learned was incorrect. So for your worldview, if there are only two sexes and they're the same thing as gender, then we should be able to classify every single person into one of those two categories. If you can't classify every person into two categories, then there's more than two categories. You're saying there's only two categories. So we must be able to classify this person who has XY chromosomes and has gotten pregnant and giving birth. So are they a man or a woman, Ulrich?
Or maybe they are different and they are in both categories, but that doesn't make a third one, though. It's
Ulrich,
not a third gender. They do not have a third gender.
Ulrich, one or the other or both is three things. That's three categories you've created. One or the other or both is not binary.
But yes, it is. Because this person has male and female parts. There's still male and female parts, two, not three. Not an indefinite number like you want to claim.
Is purple red or blue?
It's a mix of that.
Right. So is purple a different color than red and blue?
Yes, that comes by mixing that.
Right. So if I say I have red, blue, and purple clothing, say, for example, do I have clothing of 2 colors or 3?
That would be of 3 colors.
Right. So if you say that there are men and women and a mix of both, is that 2 categories or 3?
I think the example with colors is not the same as the one with gender.
I'm going to ask you the same question again, Ulrich. If I say there's men, women, and a mixture of both, is that 2 categories or 3?
That's 3 categories, but 2 genders.
Right. 3 categories, which isn't, say it with me now, a binary.
But yes, it is.
Two sexes and a continuum of variation between those 2 sexes is not a binary system. That's just bad labeling.
It is a binary system. We all come from 2 people of different sexes that had sex, and that's how we were produced. So it is a binary system. Everybody knows that except for scientists today.
Okay, so that is a very funny thing to say. Also, if that's true, and if there's only 2 sexes, then I will ask you again, how do you classify someone with XY chromosomes and a uterus who can get pregnant and give birth in one of the 2 available categories?
You could classify them as male if you classify according to the chromosomes. If you classify according to the uterus, then they would be female. That depends on how you classify.
But what you said, but that's why I asked you at the beginning how you do it, because you said that it's everything. It's anatomy and chromosomes and all these other things. You said they all go together, anatomy, physiology, chromosomes. If that's the case, then how do you classify someone when those things are, oh, excuse me, I'm burping up gross shit because I'm so disgusted by the shit you're saying. How do you classify somebody who fits more than one category?
In one or the other, that would be the experts to decide.
But you just said, Ulrich, you literally just said that the experts are wrong. You just said with your own face that everybody knows what you're saying except for scientists. So what experts are you talking about?
Medical experts.
I have a master's degree in biomedical sciences, and it's very, very clear in our discipline that there are more than 2 genders, and that's not the same thing as sex.
Okay, then other scientists who I can take seriously who don't think there are a million genders, maybe they should decide. Maybe not you.
So when you say experts, what you mean is people who agree with you. You don't mean experts. You mean that when people agree with you, they're right. And when they say something you don't personally agree with, that means they're wrong. Is that how science works, Ulrich?
We observe reality, and if you agree with reality, we're right. If we live in our fantasies, we're wrong.
That's not what I asked you, Ulrich. I asked you, is that how science works?
I don't know how science works. I'm not a scientist. However,
it's very evident you're not a scientist.
We can tell.
It's not. No one is questioning. No, I promise you, no one is questioning whether or not you are a scientist. We all know you're not. It's very clear. What I'm asking you is it logical? I'll say, not scientific. Is it good behavior, good logical thinking to say that when someone agrees with you, that means they're an expert you can trust, and when someone says something that you don't personally believe, that means that they're not a real expert?
If they say a weird thing, I would say then you cannot trust them. Like I say, there are more than 2 genders. That's a weird idea. It's not scientific.
Do you think black holes exist?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Why? Have you ever seen one? Have you done the numbers? Have you gone and checked this out? How do you know black holes exist, Ulrich?
I just trust the people who do the science on that.
Oh, why? Why do you do that? Doesn't it sound very weird to say that there's this thing in space that's so massive it can absorb light and take it away from? Doesn't that sound fucking weird to you? Did you know that we said that that black holes were real for 100 years before we ever actually got any observable evidence of one? Do you think that's weird?
However, black holes don't go against common sense and reality.
Absolutely, they do. You're telling me that there's something out there in space that can steal light and can control, like, that all galaxies are organized around these things that break the laws of physics at their centers? That sounds crazy, Ulrich. Why do you believe it when scientists say something like that, but not when they say something else that you don't like?
I don't really know much about black hole. I don't think they break the laws of physics, though.
When you get to the core of a black hole, we don't have math to tell us what the fuck's going on in there. Our math breaks down. We don't know what's happening in the center of a black hole at all.
However, we know.
Do you believe they exist?
They can produce children. Don't we know that?
Have you done that testing? Have you collected that data? What is your sociological or psychological or anthropological background to tell you what training do you have in either sociology, biology, biomedical sciences, anthropology, psychology, anything like that allows you to crunch those numbers and do that data?
You're committing the authority fallacy here.
Not at all. If I said this one biologist says trans people are real, therefore they are, that would be the argument from authority. I'm asking you, do you have any training whatsoever in biology, anthropology, sociology, psychology, biomedical sciences, anything?
My curriculum does not change reality, though. Whatever training
I'm asking you, do you have any of that training? I asked you, do you have any of that training?
Would it change reality if I did?
I'm asking if you do.
No, I don't.
Okay, and you also don't have any training in physics. You said you don't know anything about black holes. And yet, when it comes to something that you don't have training in and you don't understand, and you can't observe, and you can't crunch the numbers on, and you have no logical backing in your reality for anything even close to that, you're able to say, you know what? These smart motherfuckers over here figured it out, and I trust them. It has no impact on your day-to-day life whatsoever, and you're able to accept it. But when it comes to the academic consensus that sex and gender are different things and neither one is binary and they're not necessarily congruent, which again is in basic introductory biology textbooks, you say scientists don't know shit. These experts aren't experts unless they agree with me. I know just because I think so that this is how nature works. Why do you feel that that is appropriate to be that unbelievably arrogant?
Not. I grew up on a farm and there are only heterosexual animals and they don't believe to be the opposite gender. It's not natural. It's not true.
Why are we talking about sexuality now? We didn't talk about sexuality this whole time. What are you talking about heterosexual for? That has nothing to do with gender.
Yeah, right. But it would be the same thing to argue for.
Did you know, Ulrich, that we have observed homosexuality in over 1,500 animal species?
Really?
Yep.
Yeah,
so does that mean that homosexuality is natural or not?
Well, look, for example, I've observed what you would call homosexual.
I asked you a question, Ulrich.
Like maybe
I asked you a question, Ulrich.
Answer the question.
Okay, what's the question again? I wasn't listening.
Oh, so you weren't listening. Yeah, so try to listen. See, that's why you don't believe in basic science, is because you're not listening to scientists who are trying to educate you here. We've seen homosexuality in over you should take better notes then. We've seen homosexuality in over 1,500 animal species. Does that mean that homosexuality is natural or not?
I don't know. I think not. I think the observations are wrong.
So when we see something, when we see a behavior that is ubiquitous across the animal kingdom, that's an unnatural behavior in your mind.
It's not. Like I told you, I've never seen that. I grew up around animals. It's not the case.
You should, yeah, okay. Another question about science, about the nature of how science might work. Were you a scientist or had any science training? You might be able to just think about, do you think that your personal individual life experience on a farm where you weren't fucking paying attention to these things because you wouldn't have had a reason to is sufficient evidence to go against the academic consensus of millions of scientists around the world gathering data for thousands of years?
That's not true. Science was not in agreement with you for thousands of years. It's a very new phenomenon. The thing that's going on there.
That's also not true. When you say science is not being agreeing with me, you are missing on the fact that it is only one particular kind of Western science that very recently started agreeing with this. In fact, there have been countless cultures around the world and throughout history that had more than two genders, that recognize transgender people. There are other scientists from other places in the world that have recognized this for a long time. Almost 100 years ago, we had Magnus Hirschfeld in Germany, who was a sexologist that had a whole library full of research into sex, gender, sexuality, trans people, everything. It was the first place the Nazis burned. So we have actually tons of research over a very long time that's been building up in this. In just Western science, we have 100 years worth of research into this, and it happens to be the place where bigots historically target first. You're just now hearing about it because it's politically salient. But in my entire academic training, it has not been controversial. It is controversial now, which is why you just heard about it and made up an ignorant ass opinion about it, despite the fact that you have no training in this area.
However, people define men and women. Men have penises, women have vaginas. That's basic knowledge. You learn that at elementary school.
Except for when they don't. Is that actually your definition? Ulrich, is that your definition of man and woman, is either penis or vagina?
Then you come with these weird cases where they have both. I know. And then I don't know what to do, but these are weird cases. Something went wrong when they were born or something.
I'm going to ask you the same question again and see if you have the spine to answer it. Is that your definition of man and woman? Is this synonymous with having a penis or a vagina?
I might say it's synonymous with having the male sexual organs or the female sexual organ.
Cool. You rebranded an organ. I'm going to ask you again. Are penises the male sexual organ, and therefore everyone with a penis is a male and everyone without a penis is not a male?
But are penises sexual, the male sexual organs? Yes or no? A question for you.
I'm going to ask you again. Are you saying that everyone with a penis is necessarily a man and everyone without a penis is necessarily not a man?
But are penises male organs? Yes or no? Can you answer that question?
Ulrich, this isn't your fucking show. I'm asking you a question, and you've been dodging it for 5 fucking minutes. Is that what your position is or not?
Penis are the male sexual organs. Vaginas are the female sexual organs. I say that 100%. You cannot even agree to that. What kind of science is that?
Ulrich, I have not either agreed or disagreed with you. I'm simply not stooping to your level until you can answer a fucking straightforward question. See, this is the thing that transphobes always do. Transphobes can't fucking tell the difference between can't and won't. You cannot wrap your head around me refusing to participate in your dumbass questioning, and so you assume that I'm incapable of doing so. I'm not playing your fucking game. You called into my show. So stand up for what you actually fucking believe in. You're making the claim. I'm asking questions about your claim. If you can't defend the dumb shit you're saying, maybe you shouldn't fucking believe it.
Okay, now you've gone to the next step. It's just profanity and insulting. It won't work. Men have...
I haven't insulted you. I haven't insulted you. What did I say to you that was an insult? I called you a transphobe. I called you a transphobe. That was not an insult. That was a description. And I called your argument dumb.
Okay.
So I'm going to now ask you, I'm going to now ask you the same goddamn question again. And let's see if somewhere around Mexico you can find a spine to use for just a moment to answer this simple fucking question. The position that you are espousing seems to be that as long as someone has a penis, they are a man, and if they don't, then they're not. Is that actually what you are claiming or not?
I would say in almost 100% of cases, yes. There might be some weird shit that you will bring now up that's not the case.
Okay, so if you have a diagnostic for gender and sex that is not reliable and works sometimes but not all of the times, is that a good diagnostic to go with and to use for this situation?
It works like 99.99% of the times. Then
that's not what I asked you. I asked you, is it a good diagnostic criteria?
Yes, it is. 99.99%
okay,
is
then
enough.
Let's ask you in your worldview, can you give me a definition of man or woman, either one, that does 3 key things that would be necessary for it to be a good diagnostic criterion, or whatever. Give me a definition for either man. I'm going to say man. We're going to start with man, okay? Give me a definition for man that does these 3 things. Number 1, it must include all cisgender men and exclude all transgender women. Number 2, it must exclude all cisgender women and include all transgender men. And pardon me, exclude all transgender men and include all transgender women. I will repeat this because I stumbled and I'll make sure I'm very clear about it. And number 3, it must be based on purely physical characteristics. I will repeat that again because I stumbled, and I'm not going to let you get away with saying that I was unclear. Give me a definition for the word man that includes all cisgender men and excludes all transgender men, includes all transgender women and excludes all cisgender women, and is based solely on physical characteristics. Give me that definition, Ulrich.
Okay, there will be an adult person with a penis and testicles.
Okay, you fucked up. You fucked up. You messed it up. That doesn't do that job.
I think that's an argument then.
You have failed at the definition challenge I gave you. Do you want to try for women? Give me a definition of woman that includes all cisgender women and all transgender men, excludes all cisgender men and all transgender women, and is based solely on physical criteria. Give me that definition for woman.
An adult person that has a vagina.
You blew it. That's not accurate.
This giggling.
Do you want to go through why?
Yes.
What do you call a person with who has XY chromosomes, a penis and testicles, and also has persistent Mullerian duct syndrome, which means they have all or some of a uterus and a vagina? What is that person, Ulrich? And if I swear to fucking God, if you just take the bitch answer and say, oh, they're just a weird exception, that means they don't. I'm just going to fucking move on to the next caller who actually is serious and has a fucking brain and a spine to go along with it. Because I'm so fucking bored of you copping out of this shit. Answer the fucking question based on your worldview. What do you call a man with persistent Mullerian duct syndrome?
Look, you're coping out. You're giving me this example. Answer me the question, what is a woman, is a man? You. Question for you.
So again, you're just not going to answer a fucking question.
I answered all the questions. You don't answer even one question.
It's not your goddamn show. I'm happy to give that answer to you. I'm happy to define that, but I'm just showing you literally just misdefined both man and woman. And when I presented you with one single fucking case that goes against your definition, you just fucking ignored it and moved on to, well, you need to answer this. There's actually, for real, in biology, there is an old term for exactly this kind of we call it a bitch move. And it sucks to see you doing it, Ulrich. I'd love to see you actually try to grapple with the ramifications of what you're fucking saying.
Okay, I just define what the man and the woman is and the person who fall into one or the other category.
Yes, and I presented you with someone who does not fall into one or the other category, and you bitched out.
And what does this even have to do? Okay, you present another of these cases.
Yes, you gave me a strict definition. You gave me a strict definition. I showed you where your definition is wrong, and there's actually exceptions to that. And you said, those are just exceptions. Then it's a bad definition, right. Ulrich. You gave a bad definition if it doesn't cover those things. I specifically asked for something that includes all cisgendered men and transgender women and excludes all transgender men and cisgender women. And you couldn't do it. You gave me something that is still able to have all these so-called exceptions thrown into it. You didn't give a good definition. You don't know what men or women are.
I know what definitions are. Every definition will have exceptions. That's normal.
But that's not what I asked you for. I asked you for one that was without exception, and you can't give it. Do you know why? Because it's not a goddamn binary simple system. It's fuzzy and complex, which is why it has a lot of variation and a lot of exceptions. Let me ask you a different question, Ulrich. If gender is a strict binary that's immutable and permanent, why do we have different gender presentations, different gender identities, and different gendered expectations across time and across cultures?
What weird question is that? We have them because of culture, but the gender identity and stuff, that's different. We were not talking about that.
If that was the case, if gender was linked with biological sex and gender and sex were the same thing and they're all based around chromosomes and anatomy and physiology, then there could not possibly be any variation in gender presentation, gendered behaviors, gender expectations, gender identity, gender, any of that. There would be none of that. There would be no variation whatsoever. And yet there is tremendous variation across time. And are you fucking kidding me? How much variation is there in chromosomal configurations?
Yes, there is, but it doesn't follow that there cannot be. Gender and sex is the same, and there are different presentations. I don't think that's
how many different. How many, if they're the same thing and they present in different ways, how many presentations are there?
What do you mean by presentation?
Oh, so you now want to step up and actually define the thing that you just argued with me about?
I wasn't arguing about presentation, but so what do you mean by presentation so I can answer your question?
Just this whole time when I was talking about gender presentation and you were arguing, telling me I was wrong, you didn't know what that word meant? Is that what I'm hearing?
So you're just saying I don't know what I'm talking about. That's not going on anywhere.
I'm asking you why you were so confident in telling me that what I was saying was wrong when you didn't know what the word meant. How did you know I was wrong?
Okay, the presentations, like I understand them, is like men like having beards, women have long hair, stuff like that.
Again, right? Ulrich, I'm going to ask you the same question again, and maybe this time you'll answer a question, because it seems that this whole call, you can't answer a fucking straightforward question until the fifth time it's asked. So let me ask you this one. What exactly is it that gave you the cojones to tell me that I was wrong about gender presentation being variable across cultures when you didn't know what that meant and you had to stop and ask me what that word was? Why were you comfortable telling me that I was wrong about what I was saying when you didn't know what I meant?
I know what it means, but I want to know what you mean by that so I can answer the question about how many presentations there are.
Cool.
I think
let me go now back to the last question that you didn't fucking answer. If sex and gender are actually immutably linked, binary, inextricably connected, they're biological, basic, all these things, and there's only two possible options, then how do we have so many different gender presentations, gender concepts, gender norms, gender rules, gendered behaviors, all these things across cultures, across history, around the world. We have cultures with more than two genders, cultures with trans people, cultures with different gendered expectations, cultures where genders present themselves in different ways, cultures where genders have different expectations in society, cultures where genders have different norms. How is that possible if this is a strict and immutable biological reality that comes in only two varieties?
Presentations are not dependent on the sex and genders. Presentations are like characteristics, like they present themselves.
Okay.
You draw a line.
Answer the rest of it. Answer the rest of it.
No, your question is wrong. It's based on a wrong conclusion that you draw. That because of different gender presentations, there must be different genders. No, there can be multiple presentations, but only two genders.
Okay, answer the rest of the question.
Okay, there are two sexes, two genders. The genders can present differently, but still there's only male and female.
You're still on presentation. Answer the rest of the question, Ulrich.
The question is answered.
You answered about presentation. I disagree, and I'm ready to get to why I disagree. But before I do, I mentioned more than just presentation. Answer the rest of the question, Ulrich.
I answered the question.
I'll just bring up again the parts you didn't answer. There are cultures around the world throughout history that have more than two genders in their cultural construct, that acknowledge trans people in their cultural construct and non-binary people. How is that possible that this has existed throughout time and space, cultures all around the world, for as long as we have records, and still today, in fact? How is that possible if this is a strict, immutable biological reality?
For the same reasons, there are different religions that you also claim are not true. People make stuff up. That's why.
So there we have gender presentation can be non-binary because people can just behave however they want, and trans people can exist because people can just believe whatever they want. Third thing, when we have in our own culture gender norms and behaviors also shifting, how is that possible if this is a strict and immutable biological binary?
Because it has nothing to do with the biology, but that doesn't make you being the other gender. So here we got to the core. What we're establishing
here is that in your belief system, that everything to do with gender besides just a person's body and what they are born with, all of that is actually a separate cultural thing, that your behavior, the norms, the systems that you live under, socioeconomic status, power, all of that is separate from the biology of sex. Is that right?
Amen. Yes.
What you just fucking described is why we separate sex from gender. Congratulations, you just discovered basic anthropology. Now, when we get into the topic of why these things are related and connected, let's try to just hammer home a little bit more difference. Is it possible for someone's sex to change during their life?
No.
And again, when you talk about sex,
no.
When you talk about sex, you said that involves both your chromosomes and also your anatomy and physiology, right?
Mostly, yes, in most cases. You will bring up, stop setting up traps. Can you just admit men have penises, women have vaginas? Basic biology.
What you call traps, Ulrich, I call fucking thinking. So here we are again. You said in your worldview that sex is broken down into anatomy and chromosomes and physiology, and you just said the rest of it, whatever the fuck that means, and you said these are all connected, right?
Sex and gender are the same. There are only two genders. Why is it difficult to accept that? You're a biologist. Why don't you accept basic biology?
Okay, Ulrich. Let's see if we can get you to answer the same fucking question this time. You said in the beginning of the call that sex is broken down into anatomy and chromosomes and physiology and the rest of it, and that all of that is connected. Isn't that what you said?
Sex is biology. It's what physically is there. It's not what you imagine you are.
Ulrich, can I ask you a totally different question? Why does it take 5 times of asking you every single fucking question before you half-ass an answer? Why can't you just answer a straightforward question?
Because you said traps. That's why.
No,
and I
ask questions to show that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You have a very poor understanding of biology, and you use that as if it's fucking doctrine, and it isn't.
Look, you can insult me, although I'm not a teenager, I don't care. But I know reality.
That's not insulting you, sir. That is describing you.
Yeah, you're insulting again. You're so smart. If you're so smart, why don't you get basic stuff in the world? Like there are 2 genders. You come from a man and a woman. You don't come from 2 persons of the same sex, ever.
Ulrich, I need you to take your emotions and dial them back about 5 levels. You're freaking the fuck out and it's getting concerning. What I need you to understand is that what you are arguing about here is actually basic biology, and you're fucking wrong about it. When the experts are telling you you're wrong, and your response is to say, well, the experts must be wrong because I can only possibly be right, it means you bought into dumb, illogical thinking that, as I mentioned earlier in the show, is absolutely no different than any anti-vaxxer, any flat earther, any creationist in the world. It's the same level of fucking ignorance and arrogance that those people express. The reason why I want to know why you can't answer a simple fucking question is because I'm hoping that for just one brief and beautiful moment, you will experience a little bit of peripety, a little bit of self-reflection, where you acknowledge the fact that every single time somebody who knows what the fuck they're talking about asks you a basic question about what you're saying, not even what I believe, what you believe, you fucking bitch out and dodge it and run away from it because you don't know shit and you fucking know it. You can't defend anything you're saying without just screaming and getting emotional and saying, how do you not get this? You're a fucking bad scientist. You don't believe me. I see it with my own eyes. How do you get it? As if that's a fucking scientific argument, and it's fucking not. It's weak, it's cowardly, it's ignorant, and it's fucking lazy. That is what you're exhibiting, is lazy stupidity over and over and over. And when I confront you with that by asking what you believe, not even asking you to account for me, asking what you fucking said. I've been asking for 5 minutes. What did you say? Did you say this? And every time I ask you what you fucking said, you dodge to some bullshit about how I can't answer your questions as if I fucking called you. Own up to what you believe. You don't know shit. And you fucking know it.
So if you go back to insulting whenever you're out of argument, your traps don't work, then you go to insulting.
What?
Put some blasphemy onto that. That's what you do.
Ulrich, I fucking dare you to tell me one insult that I've actually levied against you. What is one thing that I've said that's actually an insult towards you and not just criticizing your bullshit arguments?
You say I didn't know shit. Isn't that kind of an insult?
Yes. No, that is describing you. If I called you a stupid, lazy bitch, that would be an insult. I'm saying you are presenting the arguments that stupid, lazy bitches present.
So can you admit
Forrest,
that
if I can jump in?
Yes, please, Morticia, please jump in.
Yeah,
please. I really want to ask our friend here a question. Ulrich, I just want to ask you a question. So you said that you can only be male or female. Am I correct in that?
Yes, or intersex. But that's, like I said, a rare condition.
So you can only be male or female. Do you think that someone could be both at the same time?
Like I said, intersex people, yes.
Do you think that someone could be male and female at the same time? Yes or no?
They can be intersex. I'm answering the question.
Is that a yes or a no?
That's not a yes or no answer.
Look, you're setting a trap again. Okay, the answer is yes.
Okay, so they can be male and female at the same time.
For physical reasons, yes. Not because they
So
think
if
they are both.
if someone can be male and female at the same time, therefore they do not fit into one category or the other, they fall into both. Why is it such a problem for you if someone chooses to step outside of that a little bit and says they're transgender? Why does that bother you so much?
Because it's not real. With intersex,
how isn't it real if people can be male and female at the same time? If people's sex, I don't know if you knew this, people's sex can change without any intervention of their own due to genetic causes. Their sex can change. It's called sex reversal. If that can happen due to totally natural mechanisms through genetic means, why can't people choose to have their sex changed?
Because you can't. You can never
but
change
if people,
sex.
If people, no, okay, I'll lay it out for you. I will hold your hand and walk you through this, buddy. If someone's sex can be reversed, if it can change through totally natural mechanisms, that means they are not taking hormones, they are not getting surgery, no action of their own, totally genetic conditions, their sex can reverse from male to female or from female to male. Why can't someone choose to change their sex?
They could choose that, but it doesn't make it real.
If
it
so, it's real, but it's not real. That doesn't make any sense. If someone can choose to, if someone can have their sex reversed without any action on their own, they are not choosing anything. Their genetics, their bodies are doing this all on their own. No human input required. Why can't people choose to change their sex?
Because it's impossible to change your sex.
Okay, that doesn't make any sense. If it was impossible, we wouldn't see this happen through totally natural mechanisms.
Okay, this natural mechanism stuff, that's a rare condition that might be true, but you cannot choose, tomorrow I want to be something else and you change. You cannot. Neither can you change your skin color or stuff like that.
I guess I'll just repeat myself. That's okay. If people's sex can be reversed through natural means, through genetic means, they do not even know that this is happening sometimes because we can't see our chromosomes and what they're doing inside of our cells. If this can happen through totally natural mechanisms, why can't people choose to have that done? Why can it happen naturally, but we can't choose for it to happen?
Are we talking about surgery?
We are talking about very real genetic conditions where someone who is male, their sex reverts to female through totally natural mechanisms. I mean that this person is not taking hormones. They are not receiving surgery. They are not taking any sort of medication. This is not because of anything that they are choosing to do. This is because of genetics and hormones in their body doing their own thing with no human intervention. Totally natural mechanism. If someone's sex can be reverted through this process, why can't transgender people change their sex?
Okay, that would be like, there are people who lose a limb. So you can choose to cut off your arm. Why shouldn't you do that? You shouldn't. Right?
I don't know why you're totally derailing to a completely different thing. Can you answer the question?
Yeah, I answered. I think you can't. You cannot change your sex.
No, you answered the question with something completely. You are derailing.
Okay, there might be some disease that causes that. Do we want to be diseased and do we want to get ill and have some weird chromosome stuff going on? Because we don't feel good about ourselves.
Now we're talking about disease, and when it comes to intersex conditions, there are more than 40 conditions that are classified that are considered as intersex. Not all of those are pathological. Not all of those lead to disease. Not all of those have any sort of negative symptoms, effects, nothing. So if you're going to talk about disease, we're having a completely different conversation now. I would really like if you answered my question. If people's sex can naturally reverse without any human intervention, why can't people choose to change their sex?
Because we are not able to do that.
But we are able to do that. I just laid it out now.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to cut you off. I want you to keep going.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
It is beyond fucking funny to have you say, if this can happen, then why can't we do it on purpose? And he says, because it can't happen. And you say, you acknowledge this can happen, right? And he's like, yeah, that can happen. And you're like, okay, if this can happen, then why can't we do it this? Because that doesn't happen. And it's just over and over and over. Ulrich smashes his head against the wall of his own fucking ignorance over and over and over. It's fucking wild. Keep asking your questions. Maybe. It took him 5 times to answer anything from me. You're a woman, so maybe it'll take like 20. We'll see what happens.
So you
here, I'll ask you.
Not the same as it doesn't happen. It happens naturally. We cannot do it artificially. That's what I meant. I don't know why Forrest doesn't understand that.
Okay. So do you think let's take this in a slightly different direction. People's hair can change in color naturally over time. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you think that someone dyeing their hair is wrong?
No.
Why is it wrong for someone to choose to change their sex if their sex can be changed by natural means? If dyeing your hair isn't wrong when your hair can naturally change color, why does that not apply to people changing their sex?
Look, if you want to change your hair color, you can buy some coloring stuff and do it, and then it is like that. But if you remove your penis, you're still a man. It doesn't change. What is artificially?
What if you saw someone with dyed hair in public? Would it be reasonable or appropriate to confront that person and be like, that's not natural, that's not how it really is? Is that a hill you think you should die on? Or would you be like, oh, that person did a thing with their body, neato bandito, I choose not to participate in this situation at all?
I just say it's okay to dye your hair. I don't know why I bring that up.
Do you see the connection that she's trying to build here, where people's bodies can change on their own by natural means? People's sexes can change, and therefore also they can do it by artificial means, and it's equally valid because it's not your fucking business.
Forrest, why don't you let the woman talk? I'm always criticized because of that, and you won't let her take up the discussion.
That was a lazy fucking cop-out, dude. That was fucking lazy and pathetic and embarrassing. And that is the woman talking, just so you are aware of that.
I am.
Good. Glad we could establish that.
Okay. Do men have penises, yes or no?
Do I?
No, do men have penises and women have vaginas?
Do I have a penis, good sir?
I'm not asking about. Yeah. Now we're on Matilla-Hunty profanity. I'm not asking about your penis. Is that the next
step? What profanity did I say?
It sounds like you are.
Talking about your penis. Why are you talking about your penis? I don't want to talk about your dick.
Bro, you opened the door. Don't be mad that Forrest stepped through it.
I have been on this show for 4 hours waiting to talk about my dick. Would you please answer the question? Do I have one or not?
I will not talk about your dick ever.
You coward. How dare you?
I will not talk about your dick. Is that so weird? I don't want to talk about Forrest Valkai's penis on the show.
No, you just want to talk about everyone else's.
You just want to talk about transgender people's penises.
Male and female. That's what my point is. Observation.
Okay. Since you want to bring up male genitalia, I'm gonna ask you another question, and we'll see how long it takes for you to answer this one. Do you think all men have penises? Yes or no?
Oh no, I asked him this for 5 minutes a minute ago.
And
how did you answer her the first time? You fucker! How did you? I talked to you for 10 goddamn minutes asking you to get that, and you dodged the question every time. How the fuck did she get it out of you first time? How dare you? I'm offended. That fucking makes sense. He's reverse sexist.
If a man, so I don't know, maybe you didn't know this, so we can teach you some science. That's what we're here for. There is a condition called There is a condition called aphalia. That is when someone does not have a penis, but they have XY chromosomes. Are you saying this person is not a man?
Wait for it.
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying this person has a condition. You just said it. He has a condition.
So all men have penises except for when they don't.
Except for they have a condition that they don't have one, right?
Okay, so this is the issue.
Can I also ask?
Go ahead, Forrest. Yeah.
I was going to ask, what about Givadose people who are born with a vagina and grow a penis later?
Another rare condition. Why do we make the rules based on
Take
exceptions?
a shot. He said it. That's a rare condition.
Yeah, because they're not the rule. You know, difference between the rule and exception. Okay. There are rules.
So again, all men have penises except for the ones who don't, and except for the people who get them later.
So, Ulrich, I think this is a fundamental misunderstanding that you're carrying into this conversation about biology and science. In the sciences, especially in biology, we do not construct rules, for lack of a better word, I'm using your terminology here, in this way, where we notice that there is a significant, a consistent outlier, an exception to what we thought was true. And then we go, well, that's nothing. We'll just put it over there in the corner and we'll still insist that our category, that our system of classification, that our system of categorization is still true. We're just going to ignore all of those other stuff. Everything is still fine. That's not how we do things in the sciences. It's definitely not how we do things in biology. And this happens a lot where we are observing life. We're observing the messiness and the fuzzy boundaries of life all around us. And we are confronted with the fact that our system of classification, that our system of categorization is wrong, that it doesn't quite accommodate everything, that there are outliers, that there are things that don't fit in to the boxes that we've drawn. Do you know what we do in that situation? We change the boxes. We don't go, well, that group over there, we're just going to put it over in the corner. We're just going to pretend like it doesn't exist because it's a rare instance, so it doesn't actually matter. We don't do that. We do actually the opposite, where we erase the lines around the boxes and we redraw them. So you coming into this conversation with two biologists, two scientists who are trying to explain this to you and not understanding that shows a fundamental misunderstanding of biology, of science, of the entire topic at hand. And it's not a bad thing to not be informed. It's not a bad thing to not know these things, but to then make a soapbox out of that ignorance and to just insist stubbornly and be bullheaded, well, no, you're wrong and I'm right because that's rare, when that is the entire point, that there is an entire group of people that, like Forrest said, encompasses the population of Russia, doesn't fit into these boxes we've drawn. It means the boxes are invalid. You are being bullheaded and stubbornly misunderstanding that, and it shows your fundamental misunderstanding of science and of biology as a whole. Oh, where'd he go?
I mean, that's I think his phone might have gone to sleep. Oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah, all right, we'll let you respond.
So,
let's hear how much of that you actually listen to.
I listen to everything. You are the ones that don't listen, just try to set traps and insult people. I listen and I argue.
Okay, so respond to what I said. Respond to what I said. Curb your emotions. Take a deep breath.
Okay, can you make it a question then so I can answer?
I wasn't really asking for an answer. You can respond without me posing a question. It was a statement. You can respond without it being a question.
I'll give you a question.
What do you have to say?
Do you agree with what Morticia just said? What are your thoughts about what she just said?
Go.
That's the question.
How to categorize stuff? Yeah, that's how it's done, but nothing to do with the topic whatsoever.
You don't think this topic has anything to do with categorization?
No, the topic has to do with reality. That's what you don't get. I'm explaining reality to you.
Ulrich, you're not fucking serious at all. That's the thing. Like, you don't think that an hour long conversation about how many categories there are for sex doesn't involve categorization. You're just not willing to participate honestly in a conversation with somebody who knows more shit than you. Morticia just beautifully fucking laid out the fundamental bit about what science is and how it fucking works. Like, that was a fucking perfect explanation about how exceptions to the rules oftentimes help us reevaluate and change what we thought the rules were. That is the story of science, especially biology. If you know the first fucking thing about the history of biology, that's it. That is the concept of biology for the past several hundred years, has been everything is exactly this, except for when it's not. Well, fuck. Okay, well, I guess it's these two things. Actually, there's this other. Okay, well, fuck. I guess we got to redraw the boxes again and again and again and again. And I promise you, take sex and gender out of your fucking brain and talk about anything else in biology. I promise you, you can talk about how a couple hundred years ago or 50 years ago or 10 years ago, we had completely different classification systems. We used to call mushrooms plants. And then we learned more shit and we had to create a whole new fucking category for living things. We used to not have a categorization system for protists. And then we had to learn more shit and make a whole new kingdom for protists that scientists still argue whether or not exists in the fucking first place. We used to call everything a plant or an animal, even when they weren't. And then we discovered bacteria. We had to come up with a whole new classification system for that. We're coming up now to the same situation where we have a totally new classification system for something, a totally new group of a bunch of information, a whole bunch of data over the past 100 years that is challenging this stupid, outdated way that we used to think. And Morticia just explained to you that that is not challenging anything significant. That is how science has always worked. That's not a new thing. That's not a scary thing. That's not an ideological thing. That is how science progresses all the time. And your response to that is, we're not talking about categories. We're talking about reality. I dare you to come up with a fucking lazier answer than that. It is very evident that you don't give a fuck about any of this. You care about your feelings and you care about your opinion. You don't care about facts. You don't care about science. You care about nice stories that make you feel good. That's it.
Do you care about facts?
Absolutely. That's why I got 6 motherfucking degrees studying facts.
Whoa. Yeah. How do we know Forrest probably has a dick? How do we know that? To come back to your favorite topic.
Why are you obsessed over this man's genitals?
He's finally talking about my dick.
Yes.
I tell you what, Ulrich. I tell you what, Ulrich, we've been on the call for a goddamn hour, and I am going to leave it at that. I tell you what, though, I think you should continue thinking about my dick. Consider it all night long. Think long and hard about my dick. Think long and hard about my dick, Ulrich, and call back and tell me what you think about it next time. Bye-bye. What an unbelievable fucking waste of time.
Wow.
But it was fun.
Incredible. That was exciting.
The man really cares about dicks. The man really, really cares about dicks. And there's no shame in that. We don't kink shame here. No. We don't mind.
No.
But if we do make a clip out of this, I hope that it's just called the dick call. And that's the whole thing.
You know, I hope so too. I think that would be the most appropriate, the most fitting title for that.
Hey, what's up? I'm glad you enjoyed that clip of people talking to each other. I'm Jimmy and this is Eric. And well, we'd really love it if you would support us. Where can they support us, Eric? Where would they do that?
You know, I don't know, Jimmy, because I don't have the notes on me right now.
This is too long.
Like
the outros have to be short. Patreon.com/call the line.